There is nothing you need to do right now. Nothing to solve. Nothing to remember. Even as the body grows still, the brain continues its quiet work. Not because something is wrong, but because this is its nature. The brain does not wait for instruction to begin thinking. It does not turn on and off like a light in a room. It remains active even when attention fades, even when awareness softens, even as sleep slowly approaches. Tonight's journey is not about effort or control or silence. It is about the gentle activity that continues beneath rest and why the brain is never completely quiet. When the brain is at rest, it does not shut down. Electrical activity continues to ripple through neural tissue quietly and continuously. As long as brain cells are alive, they maintain electrical gradients. They exchange ions across membranes. They generate signals even without external input. This background activity is present during rest, during sleep, and even during anesthesia. It disappears only when tissue is damaged or deprived of energy. The brain consumes a large share of the body's energy even when nothing appears to be happening. Most of this energy is not spent reacting to sights or sounds. It is spent maintaining ongoing internal activity. Neurons require constant energy to preserve their readiness. Restarting from complete silence would be inefficient and dangerous, so the brain maintains a steady baseline instead. Some neurons fire spontaneously without waiting for signals from others. Their membranes contain currents that slowly drift toward activity on their own. Certain calcium and sodium channels gently nudge these neurons toward firing. Blocking external input does not always silence them. Sometimes it makes their activity more regular. In the hippocampus, neurons involved in memory remain active during rest. In the cerebellum, Purkinje cells fire rhythmically, even without stimulation. In the brainstem, neurons controlling breathing never stop. Even during deep sleep, neurons neurons alternate between quieter and more active states. Silence is never complete. It is only softened. For many years, scientists dismissed this activity as noise, but closer observation revealed patterns. Spontaneous activity organizes into waves, cascades, and repeating motifs. Some patterns appear again and again, even without tasks. Neuronal avalanches show that activity follows balanced distributions, neither chaotic nor rigid, poised between order and flexibility. The brain's response to a stimulus depends on what it was already doing. Present the same sound twice, and the brain's reaction will differ slightly each time. This difference is not error, it is context. As information moves upward through the brain, variability increases. Higher regions show more spontaneous fluctuation than lower sensory areas. This variability allows creativity, learning, and adaptation. A perfectly silent brain would be unable to change. During rest, large networks of brain regions become active together. Functional imaging reveals slow, coordinated rhythms linking distant areas. The most studied of these networks is the default mode network. It becomes most active when attention turns inward. This network supports memory, imagination, and self-related thought. It remains active even when nothing is demanded of the mind. When attention shifts outward, this network quiets slightly but does not disappear. It continues in the background, maintaining continuity. Across the brain, slow waves travel through cortex and deeper structures. These waves coordinate distant regions over long time scales. Breathing, heart rate, and neural rhythms subtly align. The body and brain remain in conversation. When the mind wanders, spontaneous activity guides thought from one place to another. Memories surface. Future possibilities drift into awareness. Trying to stop thought often reveals how persistent it is. Stillness does not remove activity, it simply changes its texture. Meditative practices do not eliminate spontaneous brain activity. They soften its grip and alter its flow. During sleep, activity reorganizes rather than disappears. In light sleep, connectivity between networks can increase. In deep sleep, slow waves sweep across cortex. Memories are replayed quietly. During dreaming sleep, internal networks become vivid. Images arise without external cause. Even under anesthesia, the brain often remains active at reduced levels. True silence is rare and usually pathological. Ongoing activity shapes perception. The brain's internal rhythms determine whether a stimulus is noticed or ignored. The phase of a wave can influence awareness. Timing matters. The brain does not wait for the world, it predicts it. Resting activity reflects internal models of reality. These models prepare the brain for what may come next. Spontaneous activity provides a reference point. Change stands out because something steady already exists. The brain is not broken because it never goes quiet. It is functioning exactly as intended. Its constant activity supports flexibility, resilience, and continuity. It allows thought to emerge without effort. When you rest, the brain does not shut down. Even in moments of stillness, neural activity continues quietly in the background. Whether you are relaxed, daydreaming, asleep, or under anesthesia, the brain remains active. As long as brain tissue is alive and supplied with oxygen and glucose, it never becomes electrically silent. Electrical recordings show continuous background signals even when a person is not responding to anything. Many neurons continue firing when the body is still and the senses are idle. If a piece of brain tissue is kept alive outside the body, it continues to generate activity on its own. This persistence reveals that activity is not merely a reaction to the world, but an intrinsic property of the brain itself. Most of the brain's energy is spent on ongoing activity, not on reacting to new sights or sounds. Only a small fraction of energy is devoted to processing sensory input at any moment. Maintaining ion gradients and spontaneous spiking requires continuous metabolic effort. Even at rest, oxidative metabolism in neurons remains high. Glial cells work constantly to support this energy demand. The brain's infrastructure is built for constant operation, not intermittent bursts. Extended complete silencing of activity is associated with injury and pathology. Because restarting from silence would be inefficient and damaging, the brain prefers a stable baseline of activity. Some neurons continue firing even when most synaptic inputs are blocked. Their activity is generated internally. Intrinsic membrane currents slowly depolarize and repolarize neurons. Hyperpolarization-activated channels help bring the membrane toward firing threshold. T-type calcium channels support low threshold spikes. In some neurons, blocking both excitatory and inhibitory synapses actually increases spontaneous firing. Hippocampal, CA3 neurons, cholinergic interneurons, and cerebellar Purkinje cells all show spontaneous activity. Brainstem neurons responsible for breathing fire rhythmically without conscious control. Even during slow-wave sleep, cortical neurons alternate between active up states and quieter down states, never fully silent. For many years, spontaneous activity was dismissed as meaningless noise. Newer research shows that this activity organizes into structured patterns, Coronal avalanches reveal many small events and a few large ones, suggesting critical dynamics. Spontaneous activity shapes how the brain responds to the same stimulus at different times. Presenting an identical stimulus twice rarely produces identical responses. The difference reflects the brain's ever-changing internal state. Higher-order cortical regions show more variability than subcortical areas. As one moves up the cortical hierarchy, spontaneous activity increases. This variability supports flexibility, learning, and exploration of possible internal states. Functional MR reveals slow, organized waves of activity during rest, often below 0.1 Hz. These waves form resting state networks that link distant regions. The most prominent of these is the default mode network. It is most active when you are not focused on the external world. The default mode network supports self-reflection, memory, and imagination. During passive rest, its regions fluctuate together in strong synchrony. When attention turns outward, this network quiets but does not disappear. For internal tasks, it may even increase activity. Its persistence shows that rest is an active brain mode, not a shutdown. resting state activity unfolds as slow cascades across many regions. In animal studies, most recorded neurons participate in these cascades. They involve cortex, hippocampus, thalamus, and hypothalamus simultaneously. The cascades alternate between distinct neural ensembles, revealing organization rather than randomness. Global spontaneous activity correlates with slow changes in breathing and physiology. Low-frequency waves may even help coordinate clearance of metabolic waste. EEG recordings show ongoing alpha, beta, and slower oscillations during rest. These rhythms change with internal state, even without new sensory input. When people are doing nothing, they often report mind-wandering. Spontaneous thoughts drift through memory, future planning, and social imagination. Attempts at complete mental silence reveal ongoing events that must be noticed and released. This stream can sometimes drift into rumination, shaping mood. Practices like mindfulness do not stop activity, they change the way one relates to it. Training can alter patterns of spontaneous activity linked to self-referential thinking. These internal simulations may be an evolutionary adaptation for preparation and survival. During sleep, brain activity changes but does not vanish. At sleep onset, connectivity between resting networks can even increase. During REM sleep, activity in some default mode regions strengthens, aligning with vivid dreams. In deeper non-REM sleep, connectivity decreases but remains measurable. Slow-wave sleep is marked by traveling waves of spontaneous activity. Sleep involves replay of recent patterns, supporting memory consolidation. Even under anesthesia, many neurons continue firing. Complete electrical quiescence is more typical of severe injury than normal rest. Spontaneous oscillations shape how incoming stimuli are processed. The phase of ongoing activity can determine whether a stimulus is consciously detected. Noise exposure alters resting EEG patterns, increasing alpha and reducing beta power. These changes occur even during simple tasks. External environments reshape ongoing activity rather than simply evoking responses. A balanced background helps the brain filter signal from noise. The brain functions less like a passive receiver and more like a prediction system. Resting state activity reflects internal models of the body and the world. Continuous activity provides a baseline against which change is detected. This baseline allows rapid switching between thoughts, tasks, and states. Spontaneous dynamics are not a flaw, they are a core feature of how the brain works. Wherever electrodes are placed, activity is found. Wherever life persists, the brain remains active. This constant background does not demand attention. It continues quietly, supporting perception, memory, and rest. The brain is never completely quiet, and it does not need to be. Is not only active at rest, it is anticipatory. Even without incoming signals, the brain continues to generate expectations about the world. This ongoing activity reflects internal models built from past experience. Rather than waiting passively for input, the brain predicts what is likely to happen next. These predictions persist during rest, quiet wakefulness, and dreaming. Spontaneous activity reflects these internal guesses. They are not responses to the world, but preparations for it. Predictive coding theories suggest that resting activity embodies the brain's best current understanding of hidden causes behind sensory events. Expectation, not stimulus, drives much of the activity. By continuously predicting, the brain reduces surprise. Stability emerges from anticipation. This explains why the brain remains active even when nothing appears to demand attention. It is not idling, it is inferring. During rest, spontaneous activity carries traces of memory. Patterns similar to those evoked during past experiences reappear quietly. These reactivations occur without intention or effort. Episodic memories replay during rest and sleep. By comparing task-related and resting patterns, researchers can decode which memories are resurfacing offline. Cognition continues beyond the moment it was formed. Spontaneous activity also reflects emotion, attention, and motivation. Internal narratives unfold even when the senses are quiet. The default mode network supports these self-generated thoughts. It becomes active when attention turns inward. Over time, resting patterns reveal stable traits. They reflect tendencies in thought style, emotional tone, and focus. Variations in spontaneous connectivity correlate with fluctuations in behavior. Even within the same person, internal state shapes performance. Resting activity opens a window into covert mental life. Thoughts that arise witut invitation still leave neural traces. Spontaneous activity is not static. Networks continuously reconfigure. Resting state networks shift between multiple metastable states. Each state reflects a different pattern of connectivity. The brain wanders through these states like a slow walk through a landscape. Transitions occur without instruction. These dynamics bridge anatomy and psychology. Structural connections constrain activity, while mental content gives it shape. Different resting networks overlap with systems for attention, language, sensation, and movement. No network exists in isolation. Electrophysiological recordings show that these fluctuations occur at very low frequencies. Slow rhythms organize large-scale coordination. intrinsic networks act as building blocks. Tasks modulate them rather than replace them. This reuse allows the brain to adapt quickly. New demands emerge from existing structure. At rest, sensor-motor networks remain connected even without movement. The potential for action is preserved. When a task begins, these networks expand. Additional regions are recruited. Some areas are more synchronized during rest than during action. Others show the opposite pattern. This trade-off reflects balance. Internally driven and externally driven activity take turns. The same structural network supports both modes. Resting activity sets the initial conditions for action. The brain does not switch systems, it shifts emphasis. Spontaneous activity may be energetically efficient. It maintains readiness at low cost. Mind wandering and rest involve lower energy expenditure than active perception. This allows sustained operation. Even at the synaptic level, activity continues. Neurotransmitters are released spontaneously without action potentials. These events contribute to plasticity and stability. no synapse is truly silent. Homeostatic mechanisms keep activity within functional bounds. Too little activity is harmful. Too much is dangerous. Balance is continuously adjusted. In development, spontaneous activity comes first. Before reliable sensory input, the brain generates its own patterns. Early cortical activity appears as brief bursts. With maturation, these become longer and more stable states. These patterns engage plasticity mechanisms. They help refine connectivity. The developing brain practices activity before it understands the world. Retinal waves guide visual wiring before vision exists. Spontaneous activity shapes the brain long before experience takes over. Spontaneous activity often forms neuronal avalanches. Small events are common, large ones are rare. These cascades span multiple scales. They balance propagation and containment. Structural modularity shapes how activity spreads. Connections between modules regulate flow. Operating near criticality may optimize information transmission. The brain remains flexible yet stable. This balance supports resilience. It avoids both silence and overload. During deep sleep, spontaneous activity takes on a new role. Slow waves sweep across the brain. These waves coordinate cerebrospinal fluid movement. They enhance lymphatic clearance. Metabolic waste is removed more efficiently during sleep than wakefulness. Amyloid and tau are cleared. Sleep deprivation reduces this clearance. Restoring sleep restores balance. Spontaneous activity during sleep is not noise, it is maintenance. Behavior may arise from activity patterns rather than isolated regions. Trajectories through neural states shape action. Spontaneous dynamics define preferred paths. They constrain what actions are easily reachable. This repertoire exists before behavior appears. Action emerges from possibility. Disruptions in these patterns can signal disorder. Healthy behavior depends on healthy dynamics. Even at rest, behavior is being prepared. spontaneous mental processes are diverse. They include memory, emotion, hunger, vigilance, and drive. Many occur outside awareness. They shape mood and decision silently. Fluctuations in arousal align with slow brain dynamics. Thoughts drift with rhythms. Mind-wandering, daydreaming, and insight arise from distributed activity. Variability is normal. Resting state measures correlate with subjective experience. Internal life leaves neural footprints. The brain's idle state is not empty, it is full. The brain's baseline is not neutral, it is informative. It carries memory, expectation, and possibility. It prepares without effort. Because spontaneous activity never fully stops, the brain remains adaptable. Quiet does not mean absence, it means balance. The brain does not require silence to rest, it rests within activity. Even now, as attention drifts, the brain continues its quiet motion. Nothing needs to stop. Nothing needs to settle completely. Activity softens on its own, finding slower rhythms, gentler patterns. The brain does not demand silence to allow rest. It carries rest within activity itself. You can allow these thoughts to fade into the background, knowing that beneath them the brain continues calmly, steady, patient, and never completely quiet.